So somebody recently asked me, what keyboard and mouse should I get? And as a first time buyer, it can be quite confusing in a market full of a whole lot of different switches, a whole lot of different sensors. And since everybody is different, you get your users that are obviously your twinkle toe gentle type of users, and you get your keyboard bashers. What's up everybody?
My name is Jeff.
Yes, that one. And in this week's episode of Something Amazing, we're going to be taking a look at the Coolermaster MS110 and tell you why you should consider getting this combo kit. Let's get into it. So you've decided you need a new keyboard and mouse for your gaming setup. You just built a new PC, you got a whole lot of specials on the past Black Friday, and it can be very confusing on deciding what type of keyboard and mouse to get. There's so many options out there in the market, and where actually is a good starting point. So Coolermaster released the MS110 in August of this year. It's a new combo kit that they introduced into the market, and it comes in at an extremely competitive price of 899 Rand. And if you compare to other combo kits that are out there and other keyboards and mice or mouses actually that are out there on the market, it's extremely well priced. So the first thing is obviously nobody can tell you what type of keyboard and mouse you should get because everybody has their own preferences, and there's so many options out there on the market with a whole bunch and a whole array of different mouse sensors and mechanical keyboards. Everybody obviously, if you're into gaming, everyone says you should get a mechanical keyboard, but there's a whole lot of different switches from Cherry MX to Kyle to Gateon. Razer makes their own types of switches, and Logitech also has their own types of switches, and you get a whole lot of different color types of switches, every color in the rainbow basically, and it's always confusing on what type of switches or what type of keyboard you should get. In an ideal world, you actually would want to go into a shop that has those keyboards on display so that you can actually get a feel for them and decide on what keyboard you should buy. Otherwise, you just end up spending a whole lot of money trying out different keyboards until you find the perfect fit. And that bill can rack up quite high, quite fast.
Listen properly. 769,820.
Okay, so the first thing in this combo kit is obviously the mouse. So Coolermaster went with their new ambidextrous mouse design, which can be used whether you're right-handed or left-handed, and we've seen the same design obviously in their high-end models like the MM710 that recently got launched. This mouse also is extremely lightweight, just weighing in at 89 grams. It doesn't have any side grips etc, but the mouse does have a coating over it that gives it a rubberized feel, and while playing Counter-Strike and PUBG etc and doing quick movements, I didn't find the mouse flying out my hand. Fortunately, it gives you quite a solid grip. The mouse also has a PixArt sensor. Now, if you read up a lot about different mouse sensors, PixArt is one of the brands that most of the big companies use, and this comes with a PixArt 5050 sensor. Now, it is an entry-level gaming mouse sensor. Obviously, there are a lot better ones out there, but it does an extremely good job with a great polling rate of 1000 Hz or 1 millisecond, so that it tracks every single movement of that mouse. The mouse feet on the mouse itself enables quick and smooth gliding across the mouse pad, so you're not going to have any issues there. It also has a 3-zone RGB on the mouse, so you got basically RGB over the mouse wheel itself, the Coolermaster logo, and the side RGB strips. The side RGB strips are actually customizable. You can select a certain color, have a rainbow type of pattern, and you can actually change the direction in which the RGB light moves on the mouse itself. There's also a DPI switcher button that's on the mouse, and when you switch a DPI on this mouse, it basically goes in increments of 400 to 800 to 1600, and finally the maximum, which is 3200 DPI. And when you do change the DPI, the color coding on the mouse actually changes. The mouse wheel and the Coolermaster logo changes color according to the DPI that you've selected. Now, a question that a lot of people ask all the time is, what DPI should I start with? And considering that most pro players, etc., that play FPS titles like Counter-Strike, they usually use a DPI range between 400 and 800. But you can decide on what the best DPI for you is. They call it a 360 test. Basically, that means when you're in game and you jump, you should be able to do a 360 in the air before you land on the ground again. And depending on what DPI setting you use that enables you to do that 360, that's the DPI you should actually go with. Okay, so the next part of this kit is actually the keyboard, and if you buy this kit for any reason, buy it for the keyboard. The mouse is just a plus. The keyboard is that good. So Coolermaster's design for this keyboard obviously resembles a lot of their higher end keyboards, and I've always loved the Coolermaster design. It's very modern, it's very sleek, it's very unique and very clean, and they all have very discreet but effective RGB. On this keyboard itself, you can set the RGB patterns to static colors, breathing types of cycles, rainbow patterns, and everything is done on the keyboard itself. It also has a 6-zone RGB on the keyboard itself, and it features 26 key anti-ghosting. So every actuation or every key press is going to be registered. The keyboard itself is made up of both metal and plastic. Usually on your lower end or entry level type keyboards, they always fully plastic, and it's surprising that Coolermaster actually put metal in this keyboard, which makes it extremely strong, extremely durable, and it actually has a very decent size for the keyboard. It fits comfortably in both my Asus and Dell gaming laptop bags, so I can take this keyboard and mouse around with me. And with regards to the RGB, it doesn't only have the backlit RGB behind the keys. It actually has an RGB strip that goes around the entire keyboard, and a Coolermaster logo at the front of the keyboard that also lights up. The one thing, if I have to say one bad thing about the keyboard design, it doesn't have a wrist pad, but Coolermaster does sell a magnetic wrist pad separately. But I've gotten used to using a wrist pad, especially with long hours of gaming or sitting behind the PC, etc. But it's not actually a deal breaker, especially coming in at this price point. The main highlight of this keyboard is their new design switches. So traditionally, you've basically got two types of switches. You either had a membrane keyboard. So membrane keyboards, especially modern gaming keyboards, have rubber domes. And the problem with them is that membrane switches don't last as long as mechanical switches. And if you're a gamer or you talk to anybody that games, etc., they say you should go for mechanical switches because of its much longer lifespan. Now, Coolermaster obviously entered now the hybrid market. So this is not the first hybrid keys that have come out on the market. Hybrid keys have been around for some time, but the problem with hybrid keys is that the rubber domes still become soft with time, and then the keys just feel mushy. Coolermaster's design with this type of keyboard, they went with a mechanical switch over a rubber dome, but they guaranteeing 50 million presses, which basically matches what mechanical switches guarantee. And coming from a very reputable brand and very reputable company, it really says something that this keyboard or this switches are actually going to last for a long time. So traditionally, mechanical switches, there are three types of switches. There are your linear switches, which have a smooth motion. You have tactile switches where at the actuation point you feel a tactile bump, and then you got your clicky switches, which are like your tactile switches, but they make an audible click at the activation point or actuation point. So Coolermaster, with this hybrid keys that they've got in this keyboard, they went with the linear mechanical design. So you've got your UV coated Coolermaster keycaps at the top, and these keycaps are actually on your higher end models. They're UV coated, meaning they're not going to fade with time, especially the keyboards in direct sunlight, etc. And below that you've got your linear mechanical switch. So the design is the same as your Cherry MX switches. Now, if anyone knows, Cherry MX was the first company that did mechanical switches. They're the actual OGs. And what this means is that you can actually change out these keycaps and customize the keyboard the way you want it to look by changing the colors of the keycaps, etc., etc. Underneath that mechanical switch is obviously the rubber dome, and this is where the hybrid part of the keyboard comes in, which obviously lowers the cost a lot, but they're guaranteeing the same result as with a mechanical keyboard. So on these Coolermaster keyboards, or why people prefer mechanical switches, is obviously the actuation point. You don't have to bottom out the switch for it to register. These switches have an actuation point of 1.2 millimeters. So basically when you press a switch, it has almost a resistance field, so you get a constant resistance until it reaches the actuation point, and at the actuation point there's a loss of resistance, and then there's resistance again till the key bottoms out. But the actuation point is quite high, so that when you're playing and doing quick movements or quick presses on the keyboard, every single press should be registered while you are gaming. So another thing about these switches, Mem-chanical switches that Coolermaster have implemented on this keyboard, they're actually quite silent. They're not that loud when compared to other types of mechanical switches, so they can be used in any environment, especially if you want to, like, you know, use it in a workspace. These keyboards and mouses can be used in an office type of environment. If you're at a coffee shop and you're taking it along in your gaming laptop bag and you pull it out to use, because I don't like particularly gaming on keyboards on gaming laptops. They don't feel that great, and this is going to give you a lot of feedback, especially if you're using it when you're going on holiday, etc., and it's not going to disturb anybody that's around you. So it's actually, if you want to get it for that reason alone, it's worthwhile. Okay, so just to recap, the Coolermaster MS110, who is this for? It's basically for the budget gamer out there that doesn't have a huge amount of cash to spend on peripherals. It's also meant for the first time gamer out there that's just getting into gaming, and you're not entirely sure what type of keyboard or mouse you should go for. This is a great starting point. And it's also meant for the person, if you're looking for an additional keyboard or mouse that you want to take along with you when you're going on holiday, etc., or going away for a weekend somewhere, going home for the holidays. And it's also meant for the person if you're just trying to brighten up your workspace at work. It comes in once again at an extremely good price point of 899 Rand. Compared to other combo kits out there on the market, most of them only have plastic membrane type of keyboards, and it's probably one of the best, if not the best, combo kit, especially taking the price into consideration. It's really worth your while getting one of these. It's going to cost you less than a night out, and trust me, you won't be disappointed. I've been using this for gaming for the last 2 weeks or so, and it's really grown on me. I actually love it. It has excellent feedback. Obviously the highlight point is the actuation point. The keys feel the same each and every time for the past 2 weeks, and like I said, Coolermaster guarantees 50 million presses on these switches, and yeah, it's really something to consider, especially with Christmas around the corner now. Get it as a gift for yourself, get it as a gift for if you're older and you've got children that are into gaming and watching, get it for them, or get it for a friend. And yeah, trust me, it's probably going to be one of the best buys of the year. Well, that's another episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it and found it quite informative. As always, please like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to find out more about this product, I'll put a link in the description box down below. And we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers. Bye.